two, three.
Welcome to the Eschaton Review, a podcast within a podcast, affiliated with the Heat Death of the Universe podcasting concern. In my high altitude of solitude and incomprehensibility, I've been solemnly meditating on the anniversary of 9/11 throughout the day, contemplating the horrors of that day as I orbit the full circumference of the globe every 92 minutes. Here aboard my extremely above-ground bunker. I can hardly imagine the terror that the good people of Chile felt during Pinochet's CIA-backed coup against the democratically elected Democratic Socialist President Allende, and how so many of those same people would be thrown from helicopters just for... I think I see how I may have misled you, dear listener, by not specifying that I've been thinking about September 11th, 1973 in Chile, not the other 9/11. I call it the other 9/11, and I join in the festivities every year. It was snarky leftists will post about the Chilean coup on this sacred day. Amen. Well, in order to help us never forget, let's take a look at Business Insider's article from September 12th, 2012, entitled, "These are the 10 worst ads exploiting the 9/11 attacks. They are not happy about this shit." Okay, the article kicks off with the following, and this was written by someone named Christina Austin. I'm sure that means just as little to everyone else as it does to me. It was published at 4:25 in the morning. It's another good detail. September 11th is supposed to be a somber day of remembrance for the victims, the heroes, and the families that were impacted by the tragedy, not an opportunity to sell something. Come on, Business Insider, put your money where your mouth is. You know what I'm saying? Business. Business, all day business. But a number of companies have chosen to exploit the 9/11 attacks in ads selling everything from newspapers to PSAs to arthritic medications. There's even one for mattresses. Ugh, it's fucking disgusting. Alright, the first one here, the Mini Cooper from USA. With a touch more respect for the tragedy, the new Mini Cooper ad played on the theme of newness, saying, "Let there be Xenon, new, still mini," which ran below an image of 2 headlight beams and intended to represent the beams from Ground Zero. And this article sucks. This ad is boring. Yeah, there's just like 2 beams of light popping off the top of a building. I don't know. The sort of really low definition picture. So yeah, that one's kind of a dud, I'd say. Next, Action on Smoking and Health's Tobacco Awareness from New Zealand. Here we have 2 cigarettes burning and emitting smoke from them, much like the towers did. They're positioned very much to look like the Twin Towers. It says here, terrorism-related deaths since 2001. Let's see, when did this one come out? Okay, this ad was from 2008, so there have been 7 years lapsed. Terrorism-related deaths since 2001, 11,377. Tobacco-related deaths since 2001, 30 million. This startling tagline ran alongside an image of 2 burning cigarettes fashioned to resemble the Twin Towers. DDB New Zealand created this ad for Action on Smoking and Health. That's a clever acronym there. Action on Smoking and Health. In other words, ASH. There's a debate over whether or not the ad was even intended for distribution, but either way, it made its way from New Zealand to ASH's US website, sparking extensive controversy. Did it? Did it really? I mean, I guess it could have. It's just hard to imagine, sort of. But also not. I don't know. Okay, next up. Cobis IT Security from Brussels. Cobis is an IT company based out of Brussels that ran this ad by LG&F, which imagines a computer motherboard like Lower Manhattan. It warns, some say your computer might become a target. Yeah, and so it looks like a bunch of microchips and shit, and then, yeah, like it says, like Manhattan. You can see the towers there, and it's implying that the Twin Towers were targets. They're in your computer, so now your computer could be a target. All right. I promise they get they get better as they go along. Like this one, the Courier International out of France. Leave it to France to be the most offensive, right? I mean, remember these days nearer to 9/11 than now, when America went through a period of hating the French. People were pouring out wine. We called French fries freedom fries. Oh, so quaint. Okay, hardly subtle, this image of 2 planes flying over a much shorter set of World Trade Towers was the centerpiece of an ad for the French newspaper, the Courier International. Intended to promote the paper's reporting skills, the ad's tagline read, "Learn to anticipate," suggesting that if the architects had known to shorten the towers, the terrorist planes would have flown right over them. It looks like the towers are like ducking as 2 planes, fly over them. Not bad, France. It's kind of funny. It's a little clever. But of course, they're not taking our tragedy seriously enough, so fuck them and their wine and their potato preparations. Next, Solidarits? Clean Water Awareness. Again, France. I like this one as well. Here's yet another ad comparing natural disasters to terrorism. FDDP and Fils designed this ad for Solidarits, an international humanitarian aid organization. Humanitarian aid. According to the ad, the sinking of the Titanic, plus the attack on the World Trade Center, is still less tragic than the lack of drinking water in the world. Yeah, I'd agree, you dumb fucks. The ad explains non-drinking water kills 8 million persons a year. Yeah, just on pure numbers, it is worse. It is more of a tragedy, yes. How dare you? Ugh, drinking water. People need drinking water. 9/11? 9/11 happened, okay? 9/11. Drinking water. Okay, out of India, Genbergt's arthritis. Everyone thinks that their joints are safe and strong until one day, ... osteoarthritis. Let me try that again. So, okay, here's the picture. It's the Twin Towers, and they have, like, bones in them. Like, I don't know, it could be, like, your leg bones. Yes, that's what it looks like. The big old bones in your legs. There's an airplane flying at them, And the proportions are all off. The airplane is like more than half the height of one of the towers. Anyway, but on the airplane says osteoarthritis. So the tagline, back to the tagline, everyone thinks their joints are safe and strong until one day osteoarthritis collapses them. Jen Burkt, an Indian pharmaceutical company located in Mumbai, ran this ad for a new arthritis drug called Safe. There is internet debate around the authenticity of the ad. It does look possibly fake and really cheap, but it also looks very real, so I don't know. I don't know what this internet debate is. There's no links provided or anything, so. World Wildlife Fund's Earth Awareness, Brazil. Here's an ad for the WWF in Brazil. Not that WWF, wrestling fans. No, the World Wildlife Fund. Created by DDB Brazil in 2009. Viewers are told that, quote, the tsunami killed 100 times more people than 9/11. The planet is brutally powerful. Respect it. Preserve it. In the commercial below, a replay of the attack on the towers is featured, and surprisingly no images from the tsunami are shown. Very insensitive, trying to compare a horrible event that killed 100 times more people. I mean, that's not even real. It's not really being disrespectful to 9/11 at all. It's just saying, like, okay, 9/11 was bad, right? You guys think that? Now, here's the thing that killed 100 times more people. Understand? Do you feel the weight of that? And of course, most people don't give a shit because it's a tsunami. It's this abstraction in people's minds, whatever. Big number of people killed, boo-hoo. Maybe you fucking, if you feel slightly bad, you send a check for, $50 or whatever to some charity. Anyway, next, Orderboom's mattress, also Brazil. The image here is a calendar for September with the 11th in red. And they describe the ad as Giovanni and Draft FCB Brazil created this simple yet inappropriate piece of creative for the Brazilian mattress retailer Orderboom. A stark image of a calendar for the month of September highlighting only the 11th in red reads, "There's always something that takes away your sleep. Choose your mattress well." Okay. So what, 9/11 is haunting people's dreams? If you have a good mattress, you'll be able to, instead of never forget, you might momentarily forget and get some sleep. Oh, the humanity. El País newspaper, Spain. The Spanish newspaper El País, I don't know if I'm saying that right. País? Anyway, ran this tricky ad in 2008, created by Ogilvy and Mather. All these, ad agency names fucking suck, by the way, or just kind of odd. Anyway, priding themselves in their ability to report accurate and timely information, the 2-page spread explained, "You think you're well informed? Maybe not. Have you read El País? If you read El País, you would have the information and deep analysis of the world scene, and you would have noticed that the first attack on the World Trade Center was on the North Tower, that the impact wasn't in the middle floors but on the upper ones, and that the other tower was impacted by a commercial plane and not by a Hercules. And besides, the Transamerica Pyramid is in San Francisco and not New York. Remember, there's something worse than not being informed, and that is believing you are." The ad brings into question the accuracy of the information people around the world received during the attacks. Again, I don't see how that's so offensive. Even if you're the most blasting fucking patriotic country music motherfucker. But I get it. It's another country is using we should be the ones exploiting the tragedy and playing it over and over and over again on television stations that are just profit-generating machines anyway. Okay. Cape Times newspaper, South Africa. In 2007, Lowen Bull created this ad for South African newspaper Cape Times, which again plays on the theme of being the first to know about world-changing events. Monday, 10th September 2001. The world can change in a day. Don't miss your daily edition of in-depth news. Cape Times. Know all about it. So what? And that, I guess they didn't actually number these, but I feel like any sort of list, top 10, whatever, is going from sort of worst to best or whatever, or like, I mean, in this case, worst to the worst. And that last one was like maybe the most tame of all of them. Well, leave it to Business Insider to drop the ball. But moving on, bigger fish to fry. 9/11. As I peer out the old porthole here, down on my former planet, I spy the continent of Europe. It's the first thing that catches my eye, specifically the country of France, where some political upheavals and happenings have been taking place recently. This is basically Macron, I guess the center left, supposedly. I would just pretty much center, I would say more even center right. President of France, he is in charge of selecting the Prime Minister of France, and normally that goes to the party that got the most votes during the election. And it was an election that he threw together. Like, it was like, they call it like a snap election, I believe. In any case, the far left party got by far the most seats in the parliament, and Macron has been like fucking around and like cozying up to far right literal Nazi Marine Le Pen, and basically striking a coalition with the both right and far right parties. The right party is where he selected the new prime minister from. People are pissed. The left is pissed. The guy he chose is named Michel Barnier, or in English, Michael Barner is maybe what his name would be. He seems like this effete piece of shit. I saw some speech he gave after he was given the position of prime minister, and he was literally calling like the peasants like the low people or something to that effect. Yeah, just very like sneering down upon working class and whatnot. So there have been some fairly large demonstrations recently. I'll just read a little bit from this article in peoplesworld.org. It's a continuation of The Daily Worker, a no-good commie rag. New Popular Front rallies French to save democracy from Macron-Le Pen coup. Yes, this is just a political coup that's happening. Answering the call of the New Popular Front coalition and the country's labor unions, hundreds of thousands of people hit the streets in France this weekend. The left and workers' organizations are mobilizing resistance to President Emmanuel Macron's appointment of conservative Michel Barnier as prime minister. The NPF came in first place in parliamentary elections in July, but acting on behalf of French corporations who fear the left's program of corporate tax hikes, social spending, and reversing retirement age hikes, Macron ignored the decision of voters and imposed what amounts to a coup from above. Instead of appointing the NPF's choice of Lucie Castet as prime minister, the president joined forces with the fascists of Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party, which approved the installation of Barnier, a career politician whose most recent job was Brexit negotiator for the EU. The French Communist Party and France Unbowed, two of the four parties in the NPF alliance, are taking the lead role in organizing the national resistance movement against the Macron-Le Pen pact. Working in conjunction with them is the General Confederation of Labor, the CGT, France's biggest trade union central, which has laid responsibility for Barnier's appointment at the feet of the capitalist class. At least 150 different protest actions were recorded in cities across the country on Saturday. Protesters in Paris kept their demonstration peaceful despite efforts by police to provoke violence and confrontation. Communist Senator... what a shocking two words together. The shock. Oh my God. Oh my stars and garters. Communist Senator Ian Brossat, who represents the capital city, said that the people are angry at, quote, the denial of democracy. He questioned why, quote, the right governs when the left wins the elections. Good question. To achieve enough votes in the National Assembly to block the NPF and impose Barnier, Macron put his party's members of parliament into alliance with the fascists. Voters gave the NPF 180 seats in July, putting it in first place and giving it the legal right to nominate a PM. But Macron added his 159 seats together with the fascists' 142, and Barnier's Les Républicains, 61. They got so few. The guy whose party was like in last place is now going to be the prime minister. That's basically the summary on this whole thing. To finish the sentence, in order to steal the election from the NPF. Le Pen and her deputy, Jordan Bardella, are relishing their new role as kingmakers. They now hold the leash on both Macron and Barnier. Great, the fascists are in power. Reports on the media suggest Barnier was Macron's second choice after Le Pen, and the fascists vetoed the first option, Xavier Bertrand, another right-winger. He never gave any consideration to Castex, the NPF's nominee. The anti-immigrant stance that Barnier took while running for president in 2021, when he said immigration was, quote, out of control, no doubt helped convince National Rally to support him. But he will have to dance to the fascist tune if he wants to stay in power. Bardella said Saturday that National Rally is keeping Barnier under surveillance and told the new PM that he must prioritize stopping immigration and strengthen the police and military to keep the party's support. Skipping a little bit here is a comparison to U.S. politics. Like Trump and Republicans in the U.S., National Rally has expended great effort to portray itself as a, quote, workers' party, despite pursuing an agenda that caters to the ruling class. It's a familiar song and dance. Workers who might have been deceived into voting for the fascists, Brossat said, must know that Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella have definitely joined the bourgeoisie front. Barnier held his first public event this weekend, meeting with healthcare workers at a Paris hospital while masses of people protested his appointment just a few streets away. He said he wanted to, quote, listen to the public, but he didn't appear interested in listening to protesters. PCF spokesman Léon Desfontaines told the left-wing daily La Humanité, the Communist Party calls on all forces to go and mobilize at their place of study, in the workplace, the workers, the unions, to organize and stand together. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, head of France Unbowed, declared from the PCF's platform at the Paris demonstration Saturday, quote, the French people are in rebellion. They have entered into revolution. There will be no pause, no truce. I call you to a long-term battle. So it seems like they're doing something, at least, to push back. We'll see how it plays out, I guess. I had a few articles about this, but obviously I think that's more than enough to read from. But I did look at Trotskyist website, World Socialist website, their take on it, and they were basically just saying that the entire, French left was, too soft, basically. I don't really know who to believe exactly, because I don't follow this stuff super closely. They were basically saying that they weren't actually gonna have some sort of demonstrations, but obviously what I just read, it explained that they did in fact. I mean, it was over 100,000 people. It's not nothing, and it was all over the country. So yeah, I don't know, something to consider. Maybe there's some sort of sheepdogging Bernie Sanders type shit going on with the French left, but it just doesn't strike me as that, because the French left is so much further left than fucking Bernie Sanders. So in any case, good luck to them, and fuck those fascist motherfuckers. Oh, I found the quote I was looking for from this new prime minister. There's this French independent journalist I follow on Twitter. He's pretty good. I'm not great with pronouncing French names. I think Arnaud Bertrand. I have no idea. It looks like Arnaud Bertrand in American English. Anyway, he's at RNAUDBERTRAND. It's a good follow. He lives in China. He's got some good posts. He writes, how condescending and out of touch is France's new prime minister. is condescending and out of touch, literally calling the people, quote, the people from below in his first address as PM. Full translation. In my long public life, I have learned that good ideas come from everywhere, often from the most modest, the simplest people, when one takes the care to listen to them. I have many examples in mind of progress, small or large, that has been accomplished thanks to good ideas brought by people from below. He's the very caricature of a politician who's so entrenched in his ivory tower and so mired in his class contempt that he believes tossing a few scraps of attention to the, quote, common folk makes him a man of the people. That's definitely not what the French voted for. Yeah, and how. His party got like 6% of the vote or something. But moving on from France, and I guess moving on past the UK, where in my notes I have no links, but just a reminder to myself that says 2 dumbass Telegraph articles about Israel. So just have to imagine what those were. I can't seem to find where I put them before. And let's head over to Turkey. Turkey's Erdogan pretends to support Gaza while cozying up to the US war machine. In solidarity with Palestinians, Turkish citizens took to the streets of the port city of Izmir to protest against the docking of the USS Wasp, a US naval ship sent to support Israel. Murat Akkad, a member of the Party Council of the Communist Party of Turkey, explains how protesters are fighting back against U.S. military presence in the region and their own government's complicity in the genocide in Gaza. I mean, I guess that kind of sums it up. I mean, essentially, Erdogan and some other, like, Turkish higher-ups have, like, they talk a good talk, basically, about Palestine, solidarity with Palestine, which is true. I can say I've seen a lot of sort of quotes and they were like, rallies and stuff, supportive rallies and things like that, where like rhetorically the Turkish government seems on point, on the right side of things, but in action and in like with deference to NATO and to the US specifically, obviously, it's just a lot of talk essentially. So basically, don't get too excited about the Turkish government, but you can, I guess, know that there are some good regular people on the ground putting their money where their mouth is. That's segueing us from Turkey into Israel. There was an American of Turkish descent recently murdered in the West Bank. She was protesting the settlers. I hate even having to use that word, but it's just what everybody knows them as. The fucking monstrous assholes in the West Bank who kick people out of their homes and basically build structures like on top of their homes sometimes, and so forth. So this woman, she's only 26. She's definitely not the first American citizen to be killed in the West Bank or in Gaza. Somewhat famously, there was a young lady, Rachel Corrie, way back in 2003, who's literally run over with a bulldozer. I've mentioned it on the affiliated podcast before about how there were IDF soldiers having pancake parties where they would make pancakes and eat them and all laugh and giggle and remember how great it was when that crazy pro-Palestinian broad got flattened like a pancake with a bulldozer. But of course, the way this shit is covered in the press is terrible. There's an interesting comparison here where it's like it's a thing I've noticed a lot lately is like Israeli media is way more honest about this shit, and not because like they're great and they don't ever lie, but because I think it's just because like they don't even see anything wrong with like sort of owning their war crimes. So the headline in the Jerusalem Post reads, American Turkish activist killed by Israeli forces at West Bank protest. Compared with New York Times, American woman shot and killed at West Bank protest. So notice they don't mention anything about Israel or Israelis or the IDF. It's just someone killed this lady. Her name is Ayşenur Ezgi Egi. So, of course, this should make us think about the fact that Biden, old addled Biden, not that long ago said, tried to put on his tough guy pants and be a cowboy, and said he was referencing specifically Iran, but he said, if you harm an American, we will respond. And my God, is that not true in the case of certain Americans who support Palestine? Biden hasn't said anything about this. He's definitely not met with the family, who wants an independent investigation into this murder of their daughter. And that guy, that State Department guy, the big fat Indian guy, the Indian Jonah Hill, who I think someone else said once, and now I can't unsee it. Every time I see him, just see him as a Indian Jonah Hill. Something Patel. Anyway, he gave some of the most bullshit, like rambling 5-minute long non-answers when people were asking him about this American being killed and how, like, why we're doing nothing. And it was just a whole lot of like, we gotta let the process play out, and Israel can investigate itself. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I think one of the journalists even said, like, there's a really terrible track record of Israel investigating itself. And he's just, actually, I have that written down somewhere. Where is that? Yeah, it was that one journalist who's always like getting combative with these press secretaries. Saeed Arkat. Sorry. Anyway, he's cool. He's a good guy. He's a good journalist. The little transcript I have here, he asked Patel, the Indian Jonah Hill, do you suspect someone fired the shot other than an Israeli soldier? You can ask as many questions as you like. That's not going to change my answer. We're going to let the process play out. Saeed says, the record is quite abysmal when it comes to Israel investigating itself on killing Americans. Rachel Corrie, previously mentioned, pancake party bullshit, horrible shit. Rachel Corrie, Omar Assad, Shireen Abu Akleh. What guarantee do you have that this investigation will be carried out fairly? Patel, I'm not going to get ahead of the process. Saeed, they are less American. It is really the identity of the killer rather than the identity of the killed. Patel, I'm not sure I fully comprehend what you're asking. Dumbass motherfucker. Oh boy. So what else happened with this? Yeah, John Kirby, the little ventriloquist dummy asshole, came out with it, did the regular press, whatever, Q&A, and he made it clear that Biden has not spoken to the family. As Ryan Grimm said about this on Twitter, one of the few things Biden has always been good at is connecting with those who've lost loved ones. In this case, he can't be bothered. Yeah, he's been on vacation for like 3 weeks straight. He's just been fucking letting his old man titties fucking flap in the breeze on the beach. It's so funny how fucking he's just not president anymore. Like, he is, but he's not. He's just like really kicking his feet up for this last few months here, and nobody gives a shit. People are still like, Biden is based, Laser Eye Joe, Dark Brandon. Yeah, he can't be bothered. Somewhat more recently, so I guess the president had nothing to say about this, but Anthony Blinken and Lloyd Austin, they made like the most feeble little noises, which some news outlets are describing as like serious talk, and they lashed out at Israel, and they're really giving it to Netanyahu. They might even turn on Netanyahu. The one thing I saw that really stuck with me was the Hindustan Times had like a video with just mostly a bunch of text on it, and then like really intense music behind it, which maybe I'll insert in the background here just to give you an idea. And like, it's just like, snapshots of and clips of Lloyd Austin and Blinken like talking, and some of the quotes for what they said was like essentially what both of them said together. Like they had the same exact talking points. Like they were using like the same words. It was basically, Israel needs to re-examine its military rules of engagement in the West Bank. Oh damn, son! Insert rap pedal meme. Oh shit, god damn. You gonna light up the whole neighborhood with all that fucking fire? Tony. Austin, baby. Lloyd Austin said, I expressed my grave concern over the unprovoked and unjustified death of an American citizen. What? Air horns sound effects. Blinken said, the IDF needs to make some fundamental changes in how they operate in the West Bank. God damn, Tony Blinks. You talk to your mama with that mouth? Shit. Anyway, fuck these fucking motherfucks. Hate them all. Hope they die prolonged, horrible deaths as soon as possible. ASAP. Parody, etc. So yeah, fuck. I don't know. I got a long list here. This is like new news, but then when I looked into it, it's kind of something we already knew, but I'll just briefly go over it. The International Criminal Court prosecutor who put in that request for arrest warrants on Netanyahu and others, which haven't been even like commented on by the people who would approve that request in the months since that happened. Articles are popping up about how he said he was threatened by world leaders over requesting these warrants to be issued. Of course, Israel has like threatened him with they actually want to take him to court. There's also a UK group, UK Lawyers for Israel. They wrote a letter to him dated August 27th in which it attempts to refute his allegations against Netanyahu and Gallant. So the problem with that is that he said, I have one advantage at least. This is the prosecutor for the ICC. His name is something Khan. Khan stated, I have one advantage at least. Hopefully even they will concede I've seen the evidence. They haven't. The application is not public. It is confidential. It's filed to the chamber, so they are guessing what evidence has been submitted. So they don't even know what this guy is bringing against them, and they're trying to refute what they don't know. It's pretty absurd. And then this was the older news part, but I guess it's worth repeating if I'd said it before already. But a bunch of Republican senators wrote a threatening letter that said, "Target Israel and we will target you." The senators, led by Senator Tom Cotton, good guy, warned in the letter, "Such actions are illegitimate and lack legal basis, and, if carried out, will result in severe sanctions against you and your institution." Senators Mitch McConnell, Rick Scott, Tim Scott, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio, Little Marco, all signed the letter. Ah, boy. So yeah, probably nothing's going to come from the International Criminal Court. They only tend to follow through on prosecuting African warlords. White folks are usually not on the table. Blinken says Israel okays a plan to break the ceasefire impasse and urges Hamas to do the same. Just a total lie, because he's citing a second article. So that was from the AP. Haaretz, the biggest newspaper in Israel, they had a headline reading from that exact same days apart from when Blinken said that. Netanyahu decided against hostage deal weeks ago and found Philadelphia to be an effective spin. So yeah, I mean, it's just so over and done with that the ceasefire negotiations that people keep talking about, people like Kamala Harris and AOC and Biden and Blinken. It's just fiction. It's pure fiction. They're trying to kill one of the lead negotiators for Hamas. As we speak, they're trying, and they already killed one before, the one that he stepped in for, that was assassinated in Iran. And speaking of that, Lindsey Graham went on TV and just got all fucking spittle flecked and fucking angry, looking into the camera, and he was talking. He's trying to talk all tough to Sinwar, the current leader of Hamas. And he's like, "We're not going to just arrest you, we're going to kill you," something like that.
Sinwar, your days are numbered, pal. We're not going to indict you, we're going to kill you.
So funny to see that little pathetic man try to butch himself up. What was I saying? Oh yes, ceasefire talks. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that Netanyahu is going to keep sabotaging them. It's happened over and over. The U.S. is knowing that this is happening, of course. Nothing happens without the U.S. basically ordering it to happen. As much as we put on this fucking fake bullshit of oh, we're we're so controlled and overrun by Israel, which to some extent we are, but it's by choice. It's like a consensual role-playing relationship thing, because obviously Israel has said time and time again, we couldn't do what we're doing without the aid we get from the U.S., without all of the fucking weapons we get from America. So you turn off that tap, suddenly you've got a huge amount of leverage to make Israel do what the fuck you want them to do. But of course, what the U.S. wants them to do is exactly what they're doing, which is genocide and ethnic cleansing. I mean, even if that's not what they want them to do, it's kind of like they're 100% allowing it to happen because they need Israel for other reasons. So, like, even if you wanted to argue, like, oh, that's like it doesn't really benefit the U.S. for them to be killing so many people in Gaza. Like, usually they keep the numbers much lower, and people just don't notice. But now this is too noticeable. But aside from all that, there ain't going to be a ceasefire deal anytime soon, is what I'm basically saying. I mean, I'll be very happy to be proven wrong, but that's my assessment. Israel has abducted 98 Palestinian journalists since October. They've killed about twice that, a number that was also like, I think, twice as many journalists killed as both World War II and the Vietnam War combined. It's like a world record for journalists killed in war. So that's fun. But yeah, they don't just kill journalists. They also abduct them and put them into torture dungeons, and 15 of those 98 are being held on so-called administrative detention, which is indefinite imprisonment with no charges, no trial, nothing. Cool. Who needs habeas corpus anyway? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that, really. Just, it's so obvious why they're targeting journalists and that they are targeting them to play this fucking absurd game of like, that's just the cost of war. Well, you look at the numbers and even just like mathematical level doesn't add up. Like I said, WW2 and Vietnam, vastly longer conflicts than what's been going on for the last, getting close to a year now. Didn't get anything close to these numbers. And not just numbers of journalists, but then also the percentages of civilians and then percentages of women and children, which like by default are civilians. Yeah, it's shattering records all over the place in the worst ways. Let's just dive in further into the muck. Palestinian child wakes up during his own funeral. This one was a real doozy. It's a short video of this boy who, I don't know how, is like somehow smiling as he's recounting this. But basically what happened was his school got bombed while he was riding around on his bicycle, and he was severely injured. And he said one of the soldiers said to put him out of his misery. They shot him, which also somehow didn't kill him. He's like a bullet wound on his chest. And then he had his leg amputated without any anesthesia. And as he explains it, the hospital doesn't have any machines left that can tell if you're alive or dead. So they just assumed he was dead. And they put a shroud over him. And they began like doing some sort of funeral rites style prayer. And he like woke up, came to, and removed the shroud, and everyone started screaming basically. And now he has one leg and he's still in a hellish war zone. But that's just, that's a kind of headline it's hard to click away from. I mean, I guess I'm sure some people find themselves able to click away from horrible stuff like that, but I couldn't. And the other thing I just thought when I saw that was like, this has probably happened like several times, considering how many people and children have been killed and injured. The thing with the amputations is like, even I'm basically like almost numb to it now. Like, unless I really dwell on it for a second. There's like no anesthesia left basically in Gaza. And amputations are a regular occurrence. It's just insane. Speaking of insane, American Jewish billionaire Alex Karp is using spyware to intercept phone calls from international citizens to Palestinians. This is the Palantir guy, the guy running Peter Thiel's, one of his many evil businesses. Palantir is definitely evil. This guy's such a fucking prick. This Alex Karp guy, he like thinks he's like a philosopher king of like, he's like Peter Thiel's fucking philosopher or something. And yeah, he's just an insane billionaire, completely removed from reality. And he's bragging about how they're giving information to the IDF to help locate civilians and kill them. Like, he's just saying it. He's just saying, like, most of the people we're giving the information on have been killed. And that's also fucked up. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. There was this pretty absurd, like, infographic that I saw being passed around online that says how to... I think it's written in Spanish, maybe. But anyway, it's not that hard to translate. It's got a list of countries and then how many... a list of languages and how many countries speak them, like as, I don't know, official languages, I guess, or like common languages. And it says 22 countries speak Arabic. And then it goes through some other countries like France, or French, Spanish, English, Portuguese, and then it ends with only one country speaks Hebrew. And they see this as a slam dunk to prove that Israel is not a colonial entity because they haven't spread the Hebrew language far and wide. So how could they be colonizers? QED, ipso facto. Done and done. It's just amazing to me that anyone would actually even be trying to deny that Israel is a colonial entity at this point. Like I said, like the major like Israeli newspapers don't really deny this shit anymore, if they ever did. Two shit-ass, shitty Zionist 40-year-olds, two nice Jewish boys. I saw one of their hilarious tweets that reads, "The internet has been cut off in Gaza. The true humanitarian crisis starts now. No Pornhub." Oh boy. That was written on October 28th, 2023. And at the time that someone screen grabbed it, it had a very limited number of likes and quote tweets and reposts. But I think they're pretty popular, so it must have been taken early on. Also, another dumb thing those motherfuckers did, after they blew up and went viral or whatever, they put out a tweet. It was this like absurd, quote unquote, contextualizing and like backpedaling, but it's like backpedaling without actually doing the backpedaling. They're really just doubling down on what they said about pressing the genocide button. And I'll read some of it because it's just so absurd, like the first just paragraph or whatever. "There's quite a bit of chatter going on about some comments made on the podcast recently. We want to properly address that. Firstly, the video circulating was taken out of context. In the original recording, we made it very clear that we did not call for the genocide of the Palestinians. We were making a larger point about the fact that most Jewish Israelis do not care about the cost in civilian casualties on the Palestinian side required in order to secure the Jewish homeland." In other words, we didn't call for the genocide of Palestinians, we just called for the genocide of the Palestinians. There's literally no other way to interpret that explanation for how they didn't call for genocide other than he's just restating it. And then this tweet goes on and on and on, and then he just starts like citing opinion polls like done amongst Jewish Israelis, and like it's just about how basically it's the same thing they said on the podcast. They're just trying to be like, we're not freaks here, guys. Like, most Israelis are genocidal lunatics like us. And like, so they're just like citing all these polls. They're like 87% Jewish Israelis said they are for the, quote, complete annihilation of Hamas and continuation of the war until we obtain complete control over Gaza. And it goes on like that. So continue to say, fuck those motherfuckers. And I just scrolled down and saw the picture of the bald guy when he has his facial hair. And I think I heard this from someone else, but it's now I see it. I see it's true. He does look a lot like Kendall Roy from Succession. Anyway, one of the most insane people in the Israeli government, Ben Gvir, there's footage of him handing out assault rifles to, quote, settlers in the West Bank, which is now being basically treated as Gaza, more or less. I mean, it hasn't been bombarded quite, not as nearly as bad yet. Yeah, I don't know. Assault rifles to the settlers. Good. That's cool. That's not state-sponsored terrorism, if I've ever seen it. Here's a feel-good story. The Israeli who gang-raped Palestinian on camera after being defended by the top ministers and the media of their country is now being blessed by the top rabbi of the ruling party. Quote, "May God bless you and give you peace. What if it was true? Don't we have the right to do this?" There's some video footage of the guy who's been like making all the rounds on TV, the guy who's caught on camera raping a guy with a fucking like electrified prod or whatever. The rabbi praised the masked man. He's masked again. This must have been earlier because I thought he like revealed his identity somewhat recently. Anyway, the rabbi praised the masked man and told him, quote, he did nothing wrong. He also said in another country, they would have given them an award, referring to the rapists. It's pretty disgusting. The rabbi says, what did you do? Did you hit your enemy? What's wrong in that? And the rapist replies, nothing but good. This rabbi is like very prominent religious and political figure in Israel. He's also close to Bibi, of course. So that's another sickening fact. And I guess finally, with Israel, there was another horrific bombing of a, quote, humanitarian zone. How do they keep accidentally bombing humanitarian zones? Just again and 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 again. And it created a giant fucking crater in the ground. It killed like hundreds of people. I saw footage of people like digging with their hands in the rubble, trying to like find bodies. They're not even trying to find like living people, of course. Like it's just they're looking for bodies. And again, the New York Times being horrible in the way that they write about this stuff, of course, using the passive voice, not mentioning who did anything. They said about this attack. Breaking news. Gazan authorities reported huge craters and entire families missing after Israel said it struck a humanitarian zone to target a militant center. It's just... It's like even I forget sometimes now because of how normalized this shit is, how insane it is that what's supposed to be one of the most respected media outlets on the planet, supposedly, the New York Times, just prints shit straight from the IDF about what it does, not thinking like maybe to fact check anything, to like talk to other sources. Just, no, the IDF told us what they did and we're going to print it word for word. And just the language. Huge craters just appeared somehow. It struck a humanitarian zone. No, let's rephrase all of this. Israel dropped 2,000-pound bombs on a refugee camp that they told fucking people was a safe zone to go to and made them go there and then killed them all. How's that for a fucking breaking news headline? All right. As the world continues to spin, this is genuinely good news. I know I said positive news and then I told you something really horrible, but it's small, but it's good. I don't know. Gotta take what you can get out here in the news deserts. We spin over to South Korea, I spy the little peninsula down below, and South Korean supporters wave the Palestinian flag during World Cup qualifiers. I mean, that's basically it. There's just some footage, video footage, and it's not just a couple people with a couple little flags. It's like one of those gigantic, super giant, long flags, and then basically everyone on that side of the stadium, the South Korean fans, are supporting Palestine, which is cool. It's good to see. I sometimes forget that there's people who care about anything like that in this country. They exist. And further evidence that they exist, another story from Seoul. Pro-Palestine protests grow through joint action with climate activists. You know, it's a pretty small demonstration, I guess, you know, in the grand scheme of things, but still, it's there. Signs waving, like hands off the West Bank, etc. A lot of flags. Yeah, it's nice to see. It's nice to see anything like that. Actually, this protest looks a bit more sizable than I thought, but it's, you know, anyway. It's not the 1 million-person protest that I saw when the country was trying to give the boot to their former president, but it's not nothing. And I saw this cool thing China was doing. Basically, they've got these, like, firefighting drones that can, like, they were testing them on fires at, like, the tops of, like, skyscrapers, tall buildings. Yeah, the tweet that I saw, the commentary on it was, "This is what happens when your country invests in technology instead of funding wars." So, good point. I agree. And these drones are putting out a big fire in a tall building. I mean, it's a good solution, right? I mean, otherwise, what's the solution? Like, human beings have to go into a burning building and go up, like 100 floors? So anyway, that's cool. That's a clever idea. It's a positive contribution to the world. And we'll leap on over the Pacific to North America, where in Mexico there's some interesting reforms going on, or, you know, they will be shortly. The new president is taking over soon, and the current president, AMLO, he basically, before the election, he said, "I've got all these ideas for some good reforms. If you vote our party into office again, we'll be able to do them." And so that's what happened, basically. Like, Claudia Sheinbaum, I think is her name. Yeah, she'll be taking office on October 1st. And their party, Morena, the Morena coalition, they have like a super majority in, like, both houses of Congress. So basically, they'll be able to do, like, all of these things without any issue. I mean, unless they're pieces of shit like our Democrats in America, where even when they have supermajorities, they find a way to trip over their own dicks, and parliamentarians get in the way. And, by gosh darn it, we just can't get it done. We want to, really. I swear. No fooling. Some of the reforms are, they're going to make attach the minimum wage to the rate of inflation. So basically, it will be like an actually fair minimum wage. Yes, this is on AMLO's website. President presents, this is like Google translated, by the way, from Spanish to English. President presents 20 reforms to the Constitution. They restore humanism and public spirit to the document, he says. I'm not going to go through all 20 of them, but I just wanted to find a few more that I heard about. Reaffirm the right to a pension for senior citizens from age 65, increase the amount year after year, guarantee the same right to people with disabilities who will receive a universal pension, provide scholarships to students from poor families at all levels of education, guarantee free comprehensive medical care to all Mexicans, prohibit animal abuse, ban fracking, and ban open pit mining. Okay, but the big one is the one that's getting the most attention from the US and Canada both, is about judicial reforms. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to make federal judges and the Supreme Court judges will be democratically elected. And Canada and America are not happy about this because obviously it will get in the way of certain business wheelings and dealings, amongst other things. And, you know, it's a little bit harder probably to influence judges that are chosen by the majority of voters rather than just some politician. So the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar, released a statement opposing the reforms. It was, to say the least, a curious one. After mentioning Iraq and Afghanistan, two countries the United States has recently invaded and occupied, as examples of countries that lack independent judiciaries, he proceeded to say that popular direct election of judges is a major risk to the functioning of Mexico's democracy. Following the exposition came the threat. I also think that the debate will threaten the historic trade relationship we have built, which relies on investors' confidence in Mexico's legal framework. In other words, if you know what's good for you, in so many words, lay off. Yeah, it's a very, mafia-style threat. It would be a shame if our historic trade relationship got, damaged or something. And AMLO didn't take any of this shit. He basically told people to kind of fuck off, and it's not your business. He said, quote, "How are we going to allow the U.S. ambassador, with all due respect, to opine that what we are doing is wrong?" He asked at his press conference the following Tuesday. While denying that the ambassador would be expelled, he explained that the relationship with the embassy was, quote, on pause, throwing some shade with the diplomatic pause there. He added, for the Canadian embassy, whose attitude in seconding the United States had been, quote, pitiful, like a vassal state. He just called you a bitch, Canada. Both countries, he concluded, would like to interfere in matters that only concern Mexicans. As long as I am here, I will not allow any violation of our sovereignty. But I think it's a great idea. I mean, look at how fucking corrupt, in Mexico currently, it's just like the U.S. in terms of corruption with judges. We put these, Supreme Court justices in charge for, their whole fucking lives. I mean, it's, an absurdity. But a bunch of, American publications, the New York Times had this very, sneering hit piece, basically being this amendment to the Constitution passes, then basically anybody could be a judge. But it's not even that, because it's not just anybody. You still have to have a law degree and have been a lawyer for I don't know, a couple of years or something. But it's not this absurd thing where people just make backroom deals and just appoint people for life to these positions. Because that's the thing, is they'll be democratically elected, but then they'll be up for re-election after a certain period of time. I'd say that's good news. Good news for Mexico. Seems like, I don't know, a new day has dawned. We'll hope for the best. And hopefully the U.S. and Canada don't fucking interfere at all. Finally, the good old U.S. of A. In the U.S. of A., Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney have both endorsed Kamala Harris, which Kamala has fully embraced. She was being asked about it, and she said it was an honor, and then she just went into dumbass platitudes mode. She's her only mode of communication when she's not saying shit like shrimp and grits, and just howling with absurd laughter, laughing at jokes that aren't there. And oh boy, can our boy Bernie Sanders get any lower? Yes, he can. I swear he has a humiliation fetish at this point. Why does he keep doing this shit? Just retire, man. You're not doing anything good. You're not helping anybody. It's embarrassing as fuck. So anyway, Bernie Sanders was asked about what he thought about the Cheney endorsement. He thinks it's great. Even though, him and Dick Cheney don't agree on the issues, but, we're in an existential moment in American history right now, and we have to do everything possible not to allow a pathological liar like Trump into office. Unlike pathological liar Dick Cheney, we're going to side with Cheney over Trump. It's crazy the way liberals are embracing this idea. And there's no law that says you got to endorse the endorsements you get. I started looking up something about this, and I found a story I didn't hear about at the time, but in 2020, Richard Spencer, famed Nazi Richard Spencer, endorsed the Biden-Harris campaign, and they made a big deal of like rejecting his endorsement. They had no problem doing that with him. Dick fucking Cheney is like the logical conclusion of like a Richard Spencer's philosophy. I mean, Dick Cheney has more blood on his hands than Donald Trump could ever even dream of having. It's just, I forget where, but someone made a point. I think it was maybe Katie Halper or Aaron Maté talking about this, but they're saying basically like they're like basically looking for the votes of right wingers. So they're just like embracing all these fucking Republican endorsements, like just hundreds and hundreds of fucking monstrous people endorsing their campaign now because Trump is just out. But their point was like they could try to court the vote of like progressives and leftists, but I mean, of course, not going to do that. But it's like this idea that like, oh well, their hand is forced, like because they want to win and do good, nice Democrat-y stuff. They have to also kind of play the game of like tacking to the center and saying Dick Cheney's all right. After all, it's just so crazy. And then like in the same breath that people are like, we gotta support Cheney's support, like Bernie was saying, they say stuff like, well, the threat of Trump, he tried to steal an election. There was January 6th. And it's like, he very poorly attempted to have some sort of coup or steal the election and failed. Dick Cheney succeeded in the year 2000. That was a stolen election. I mean, does anyone doubt that at this point? Like, it's so obvious what happened. Well, I take that back, because stupid fucking libs do doubt it, and they think that what happened was that Ralph Nader ruined everything. Ralph Nader destroyed civilization by running for president, which is just not true at all. The Democrats lost because Al Gore is a fucking pussy, and they don't care. They don't care if they lose. It's strategic losing. Yeah, I mean, do I need to even explain to listeners of this that Dick Cheney's a monster? I mean, just off the top of my head, millions of deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan. He gave the makings of uranium to Saddam Hussein and lied about it to Congress. Lied about weapons of mass destruction. The Bush administration destroyed the Constitution. Torture. Lied about said torture. Oh, but Trump is rude. Dick Cheney's okay, because at least hasn't been rude in his life. Well, he shot his friend in the face and made his friend apologize to him for it. Remember that? Everyone remembers the shot to the face part, but I think a lot of people forget about how that all played out, with the friend coming out and being like, "I'm sorry, Dick." I mean, I don't remember the exact words off the top of my head, but I do remember it was an absurd thing where he like apologized to the man who shot him in the face. He's like, I shouldn't have put my face in front of your gun like that. So, I mean, this whole thing got me thinking, though, about like the real reason Trump can't be allowed to win. Like, even the likes of Dick Cheney will go as far as to endorse somebody like Kamala Harris because that's how badly they don't want Trump to win. It's not because they he's gonna do the same exact fucking policies, if not like, well, let's just say the same. He's gonna just govern like a neocon, like Bush, like a Cheney Bush would. But it's like a personal affront because he's like slovenly. He's not proper. He doesn't preside over empire with the right decorum. And also he like insulted the Bush dynasty. He's like, Jeb, you fucking suck, and your brother did 9/11, all that. So, I mean, there's like, it's not that crazy to speculate that Cheney just has like a personal grudge against Trump at this point. Because otherwise, why the fuck would he like make this like public announcement about supporting Democrats? It's insane. Otherwise, so anyway, but the real reason it's not even like people are like personally offended by Trump. I think it's more that Trump actually was prosecuted for crimes, and presidents normally don't have that happen to them, even though they should all be thrown in jail forever or strung up, because they're all fucking criminals. But Trump was the exception to the rule because he is such a national embarrassment or whatever. The unspoken bro code of presidents like has been broken. They charged a former president with crimes. And usually, I mean, it's never happened before as far as I can remember, because presidents will just pardon other presidents or decline to like see them prosecuted for anything. For example, Obama with his we tortured some folks. You know, that was his way of being like, but we got to put that behind us. The future is forward. We're not going to look back at the horrendous mountain of crimes committed by the Bush administration and just pardoning like the CIA, like torture cabals of all their crimes. And of course, not even considering for a second to pursue any criminal prosecution of Bush or Cheney or any of those fucking pieces of shit. Well, speaking of pieces of shit, I think we'll end it there today. Check out Eat Death of the Universe things, the show notes, go to the Discord, which is linked in the show notes. Follow us on Twitter. We've got a YouTube channel. What else? Gmail address. Lots of ways to get in contact. I think the best and the most promoted by myself is the Discord. Come on in. The water's nice. And how do I close this out? How did I start it? How did I start the episode? Right. 9/11. So, happy 9/11. See you next week. Bye.
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?